When you wake up each morning, there is a quiet choice waiting for you. You can spend the day chasing results, measuring your worth by numbers, applause, and recognition, or you can choose something better to be faithful in the work that is before you. It is so easy to let our minds become consumed with outcomes. We look for quick results, instant success, immediate progress, and when we don't see it, we feel disappointed, anxious, or even tempted to give up. But the truth is, the results were never meant to be your focus. Your calling is to be faithful to the work, to the task, to the purpose that God has placed in your hands today. There is a beautiful promise in Scripture that says, "Whatever you do, do it as unto the Lord and not unto men." That changes everything. Your job becomes more than just a paycheck. Your studies become more than just a step toward a career. Your service to others becomes an act of worship. Even the smallest task, whether you are cleaning your house, preparing a meal, or doing your work behind the scenes, takes on eternal significance when you do it with the right heart. The pressure to perform for the approval of others is lifted because you are working for an audience of one. When you get obsessed with results, you will always live with anxiety. You will check the numbers, you will compare yourself to others, and you will constantly wonder if you are good enough. But when you get obsessed with faithfulness, with simply showing up and giving your best, peace will guard your heart. You will no longer measure success by how big the outcome is, but by whether you were obedient today. That is where true freedom begins. Think about the farmer who works in his field. He rises early, he plows the ground, he plants the seed, and he waters the soil. He does everything within his power to create the right conditions for growth. But at the end of the day, he cannot make the sun shine, he cannot send the rain, he cannot make the seed grow. He does his part, then he waits with faith that the harvest will come in the right season. And when the harvest finally arrives, he knows it was not just his hard work, but also the faithful provision of God that made it possible. In the same way, your role is to be faithful with what you can control and leave the results in God's hands. Many people miss their breakthrough because they quit too soon. They plant the seeds but get discouraged when they don't see anything sprouting. They walk away right before the season of growth was about to come. Don't let that be you. Keep watering, keep showing up, keep working with a joyful heart. Your faithfulness today is building something you cannot yet see. Heaven is watching. Your labor is not wasted. The amazing thing is that when you work with this perspective, you actually enjoy the journey. You stop rushing to the finish line and start appreciating the process. You find joy in the little victories along the way, the lessons learned, the character developed, the perseverance built. Even the struggles start to feel meaningful because you know they are shaping you into someone stronger, wiser, and more resilient. And here is the promise. When you focus on the work and not the outcome, the results will still come. They may not arrive in the way you expected. They may not look exactly like you pictured. They may even take longer than you hoped. But they will come not just as the product of your effort, but as the fruit of your faith, your patience, and God's perfect timing. When that moment comes, you will look back and realize that the waiting, the trusting, the consistent faithfulness was all part of the blessing. So today, make a decision to shift your focus. Stop worrying about how fast things are happening or how big the outcome looks. Stop comparing your journey to someone else's. Put your whole heart into what you have been given to do today. Do it with excellence, do it with joy, and then release the results. Trust that God is working behind the scenes in ways you cannot yet see. Faithfulness over outcomes, that is the secret to a peaceful and fruitful life. Because when you put faithfulness first, you will never lose. The results may take time, but they will come, and when they do, they will be sweeter because you trusted God every step of the way. Get obsessed with the work, pour yourself into the calling before you, and when the results finally appear, you will know that it was worth it all. When you wake up in the morning, what is the first thought that comes to your mind? For many, it is the pressure of what must be accomplished, that day deadlines, goals, expectations. The world tells us that success is measured by results: how much money you make, how many people applaud your efforts, how quickly you reach your goals. But there is a higher way to live. There is a way to work without being a slave to results, a way to turn ordinary labor into something sacred. Work is not just a means to an end. Work is worship when done with the right heart. When we pour ourselves into the task before us, no matter how small it may seem, and do it as unto the Lord, it becomes holy. Scripture reminds us, "Whatever you do, do it with all your heart, as working for the Lord and not for men." This means your work is not for your boss, not for your peers, not for the approval of the world. It is for God. This shift in perspective is powerful. Results are not ours to control. The outcomes, the rewards, the recognition, they are in God's hands. Our job is to be faithful with what He has entrusted to us today. When we stop chasing results and start chasing faithfulness, we discover freedom. We are no longer crushed by failure or intoxicated by success, because our worth is not tied to the outcome, but to the one we serve. Consider the farmer who plants seed in the ground. He works tirelessly, preparing the soil, planting, watering, protecting the crop, but no amount of worrying or striving can make the rain fall or the sun shine. The farmer cannot force the seed to grow. His role is to work diligently and trust the process. The growth is in the hands of God. In the same way, you are planting seeds every time you show up and do your work with integrity and excellence. Every prayer whispered over your work, every hour spent perfecting your craft, every act of service done quietly without applause, it all matters. Heaven sees it even when people don't. You are storing up a harvest that will come in its season. When we focus too much on results, we often live in disappointment. We become discouraged when we don't see immediate progress. We compare our journey with others and feel behind. But when you turn your work into worship, you no longer measure success by how quickly things happen. You measure it by whether you were faithful today. This mindset keeps your spirit steady even in seasons of waiting. Work becomes an offering. Whether you are leading a company, sweeping a floor, teaching a classroom, or creating art, when it is done with a heart that honors God, it becomes sacred. The ordinary is transformed into something extraordinary because it carries eternal value. And here is the beautiful truth. When you are faithful in the process, God multiplies the results. The increase belongs to Him. Your effort matters, but it is His breath that brings life to what you do. The pressure to make things happen lifts from your shoulders because you are not the source of the outcome, you are the vessel. So today, stop striving for applause and start striving for obedience. Stop letting fear of failure or desire for recognition control your heart. Focus on the work in front of you. Pour yourself into it with excellence, with joy, with gratitude. That is where peace lies. That is where joy is found. When you turn your work into worship, you will find yourself free from the anxiety that comes from chasing results. You will no longer be controlled by comparison, nor will you be discouraged when the harvest seems slow. Your confidence will not be in what you see, but in the faithfulness of the one who sees you. And when the results finally come, and they will, you will recognize them for what they are. Not the product of your striving alone, but the fruit of God's perfect timing and favor. That is true success. That is the life of freedom we were meant to live. Every day we wake up, we are faced with a choice. Will we spend our time chasing results we cannot control, or will we dedicate ourselves to the work God has placed in front of us? Most of us are taught to measure life by outcomes, by numbers, by applause, by recognition, by what we can see. But when we live like this, we end up restless, discouraged, and constantly comparing ourselves to others. The truth is, God never asked us to chase results. He asked us to be faithful with the work. When Scripture says, "Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, as working for the Lord and not for men," it reminds us that work itself is an act of worship. Your job, your calling, your daily responsibilities, they are holy when done with the right heart. God is more concerned with your obedience than your outcome. He cares about your faithfulness in the process far more than the size of the result. Think of the farmer. He rises early, tills the soil, plants the seed, waters the ground, and watches over his field. But there is one thing he cannot do. He cannot make the rain fall or the sun shine. He cannot force the seed to grow. All he can do is faithfully do his part and trust that in due time the harvest will come. In the same way, your job is to plant, to water, to show up with consistency, to work diligently, to love deeply, to serve faithfully, and then trust God to bring the increase in His timing. When you make results your obsession, you live in anxiety and frustration because you are trying to control what only God can control. You may start comparing yourself with others and asking why their breakthrough came sooner. You may start feeling overlooked, thinking your labor is wasted. But when you shift your focus from results to obedience, everything changes. You begin to find joy in the process. You start waking up with purpose, knowing that what you are doing matters, even if no one notices yet. God's timing is always perfect. Sometimes He delays the results to grow your character, to teach you perseverance, to strengthen your faith, or to prepare you for a blessing bigger than what you imagine. If He gave you everything you asked for right now, it might crush you because you would not be ready to handle it. Trust that He sees what you cannot see. Trust that He is arranging things behind the scenes for your good. Maybe you have been working on something for months or even years, and you feel like nothing is happening. You feel like the prayers are unanswered, the doors are closed, and the results are nowhere to be found. Don't give up. The seed is still in the ground, and just because you don't see anything yet does not mean God is not working. Growth is often invisible at first. A seed spends time hidden in the soil before it ever breaks through the surface. Your faithfulness in the hidden seasons is what sets you up for public blessing later. So get obsessed with the work. Pour yourself into what you have today. If you are writing, write with excellence. If you are serving, serve with joy. If you are building, build with passion. Stop worrying about how big the result will be, how fast it will come, or how many people will notice. That is God's job. Your job is to be faithful today. And here is the good news. When you give your best and leave the results in God's hands, you find freedom. You no longer live under the pressure to make things happen on your own. You no longer measure your worth by numbers or outcomes. You live with a quiet confidence, knowing that heaven is watching, and that God is not unjust to forget your labor of love. The results will come maybe in ways you did not expect, maybe in a timing you would not have chosen, but they will come. And when they do, you will be able to look back and say, "This was the Lord's doing, and it is marvelous in our eyes." You will see that it was not just your hard work that brought the harvest, but God's grace, His timing, and His faithfulness. So today, stop chasing results and start chasing faithfulness. Stop asking, "When will I see it?" and start saying, "Lord, help me to stay faithful until I see it." The God who called you is faithful, and He will finish what He started in you. Trust His timing, trust His plan, and trust that your labor is never in vain when it is done for Him. When we wake up each morning, we are given a gift, a brand, new day with brand, new opportunities. But along with that gift, many of us are also tempted by a burden, the weight of worrying about the future, the results we crave, the outcomes we can't control. Anxiety comes knocking, whispering in our ear, "What if things don't work out? What if you fail? What if nobody notices?" And before the day even begins, we feel crushed under pressure. But there is a better way to live. The path to peace begins when we stop obsessing over results and start focusing on the work that God has placed in front of us. The Word reminds us that whatever we do, we are to do it wholeheartedly, as if we are doing it for the Lord and not for men. That means today's work, whether it's at home, in school, on the job, or in your calling, has eternal value when you do it faithfully. Results are not your master, God is. When you make results your obsession, you live in constant anxiety. You are tossed around by the ups and downs of life, by applause or criticism, by wins and losses. But when you make obedience your obsession, you live in steady peace, because you know you have done your part and left the rest in God's hands. Think about the farmer. He plants the seed, waters the ground, pulls out the weeds, and does his part every single day. But he cannot command the rain to fall or the sun to shine. He cannot force the crop to grow. All he can do is faithfully do his work and trust that the harvest will come in its season. If he spent all day worrying about when the harvest would appear, he would rob himself of joy. But if he focuses on the work, faithfully tending the field, he can go to bed at night with a peaceful heart, knowing he has been diligent. The same is true for us. Some of you have been working hard in silence, praying, sowing seeds, doing what you know is right, but you're still waiting for the breakthrough. You may feel discouraged because you haven't seen the results you hoped for. Don't give up. Don't let disappointment convince you that your effort doesn't matter. Heaven sees every seed you have planted. The results may not come on your schedule, but they will come. When you focus on the work and leave the results to God, you are set free from the constant comparison that drives so much anxiety. You no longer measure your worth by how quickly things happen, how many people applaud you, or how much progress you can see. Instead, you measure your life by faithfulness. And that is where freedom begins, freedom from fear, freedom from anxiety, freedom from the endless chase of trying to prove yourself. The truth is, results can be deceiving. Sometimes what looks like failure is actually preparation. Sometimes what feels like delay is God's protection. If you are only focused on outcomes, you may miss what God is doing in the process. But when you commit to the work, to showing up every day, to giving your best, to being faithful, you will begin to see how God shapes your character, strengthens your faith, and prepares you for the harvest that is coming. So today, stop chasing results and start chasing faithfulness. Pour your heart into what's in front of you. Show up with excellence. Do the work not for applause, not for recognition, but because it honors the one who gave you the assignment. And here is the beautiful promise: when you live this way, peace will guard your heart. You will no longer be ruled by fear or by what others think of you. You will find joy in simply being obedient, and when the results finally come in God's perfect timing, you will know they are not just the product of your own effort, but the fruit of His grace. Get obsessed with the work. Give your all to today. Trust the results to God. That is where true success is found, and that is where freedom from anxiety begins. Every day we wake up, we are faced with a choice. Will we live chasing results, or will we live faithfully doing the work that is in front of us? Most of us are tempted to measure our worth and success by the outcome of our efforts, by what we see, by what others say, by the applause we receive, or the numbers we can count. But results are never where true peace is found. If we want to live free from the pressure of performance, we must learn to pour our energy into faithfulness and trust that God Himself will bring the increase. There is a reason the Scripture says, "Whatever you do, do it heartily, as to the Lord, and not unto men." When you truly grasp this, your whole perspective shifts. You stop working just to get noticed, just to reach milestones, just to achieve what the world calls success. You begin to see your work, whether big or small, as an offering. Every email you send, every hand you extend in kindness, every prayer you whisper over your family, every seed you plant in someone's heart becomes sacred. You stop measuring life by outcomes, and you start measuring it by obedience. This is where the pressure falls off your shoulders. Results can become a heavy burden. We look at others who seem to be ahead, and we compare our progress to theirs. We ask, why isn't my break through here yet? Why are my prayers not answered yet? But results are not your responsibility, they are God's. The farmer plants and waters, but he cannot make it rain, he cannot make the sun shine, he cannot make the seed sprout. All he can do is stay faithful in the work, trusting that in due season the harvest will come. And that is exactly how we are called to live. Maybe you have been sowing kindness, serving faithfully, working hard, and yet you feel invisible. You feel like nothing is changing, like no one notices. But heaven notices. God sees every act of faithfulness. He counts every tear, every moment you keep going when quitting would be easier. And in His perfect timing, He will bring the increase. This is why it is so important to get obsessed with the work, not the results. The work is where your growth happens. The work is where your faith is refined. The work is where you draw closer to God because you must depend on Him daily. When you focus on the process, not the prize, you start to live with steady joy. You are not thrown off by delays. You are not crushed when others succeed before you. You are not discouraged when the numbers don't reflect your effort. You are anchored because your identity is not tied to results, it is tied to your faithfulness. Think about how freeing this is. You no longer have to control what is beyond your control. You no longer have to rush God's timing or manipulate situations to get ahead. You simply show up, do your best, and leave the outcome in His hands. When you live this way, even setbacks become part of the process. Even waiting becomes productive because you know God is shaping you for the harvest to come. And here is the truth: when the results finally come, they will mean so much more. They will not just be the result of your effort, but the fruit of your faith, your perseverance, and your trust in God's plan. You will look back and realize that the journey was just as important as the destination, because it made you who you are. So today, release the pressure to make everything happen on your own. Stop staring at the numbers, the likes, the followers, the bank account, the deadlines. Lift your eyes higher, focus on the work, and do it with a full heart. Whether anyone sees it or not, whether it pays off today or years from now, know that heaven records every act of obedience. God is the one who opens doors no man can shut. God is the one who promotes in due season. God is the one who multiplies the seed you have sown. And when He brings the increase, no one will be able to deny that it was His hand at work. So be faithful, stay steady, keep planting, keep watering, and keep believing. The results are coming. The harvest is on the way. And when it comes, it will be greater than anything you could have manufactured on your own, because God Himself will bring the increase.